Hey,
Hey there, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to PCCS's EmPower Hour. My name is Alyssa D'Augusto,
my name is Kevin Roman.
and we're here today with two very special guests. The disabled consultants, both Colleen and Millie, are here with us today. So, welcome, Colleen and Millie. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey guys.
Hi, thanks for having us.
So, Colleen and Millie, please introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about you and who you are, your business, all that good stuff.
Let's get right to it.
Sure. Colleen, do you want to get us started?
I will give just an introduction and then maybe you can start with the business. My name's Colleen. I'm one part of disabled consultants, but I'll give you guys an image description. I am a white woman with long, light brown, pandemic, too long hair, black glasses. There's a little plant next to me, a window on my bookcase in the back, and I'm wearing a red shirt.
Great. This is Millie Gonzalez. My pronouns are she, her, and ella. And my image description for today, I am a disabled Hispanic plus-size female wearing a pink top with a black shrug. I'm in a very well-used office space with a big window behind me, so some sunshine coming through that window. And that's me. And I think you're asking us, so disabled consultants. So Colleen and I are the two parts that make up disabled consultants. And first of all, just in terms of like the name, people are kind of usually ask us that first, like, where'd you get the name? And it's like, well, there's a lot of people who are out there who are disability consultants. And I think what makes us different in some ways, although again, there's other disabled folks out there who are doing this, is that we are actually disabled, and I think we just wanted to make it clear from the get-go, there's no question
Right off the bat.
that's who we are. We're coming in from experience, with knowledge, with training, coming in and doing this for folks. So I think that's really the first thing I would put out there about the name. And then just in terms of what our business is, I mean, we often work together, but have worked separately to provide consultation for folks. We do training. We've done tons of training on everything from, disability etiquette to accessibility to specific programs and creating like curriculum around programs. What else? What am I missing, Colleen? We've done specific programming around like access and inclusion, but also making things ADA accessible. We've done some more kind of niche areas like emergency management and emergency preparedness, violence against people with disabilities. So we each have also areas that we kind of come in with different experience in and are able to kind of help people along the way in that way as well. Am I missing anything, Colleen?
I think you've covered it. I think something that makes us a little unique is I think we come from varied backgrounds professionally and our disability experience as well. So it allows us the opportunity to kind of work with our clients in a way that's suitable for them. If somebody's looking for a particular kind of service that maybe one of us is more suited to, the other can come and complement whatever the skill sets are. So I guess it's like double trouble, double wisdom, whatever it is. But I think that's what makes it work, because I think we found in our kind of training style, having the co-training kind of method, it really helps because we recognize that disability is as diverse as every other identifier everywhere. So, you've met one person with a disability, you've met one person with a disability. So I think also what makes us pretty unique is I don't think we ever claim to be the omnipotent experts, nor speaking on behalf of anything or anyone. And we really try and center that. I think that it's easy when you are in a professional position in the disability community for folks to think that you are the be-all end-all knowledge bearers. And I think one of the things that Millie and I definitely center is wisdom that comes from the community. and it might not look like what folks are used to, but that's something that we really prioritize.
I love that. I love to. So background for everybody who's watching. We've worked with the disabled consultants here, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I will say, you guys, knockout tag team. I know how it is. Alyssa and I also, Alyssa does all the talking. I crack a couple jokes, and everybody likes the show, so I definitely get it. What started this idea? What brought this about? What inspired you guys to start on this avenue exactly? I don't want to ask one or two, one specific person. I'll let you guys hop in as necessary.
I'm going to give the informal answer. I think we have been stopped in every place, everywhere, at random times, from the moment we wake up till the moment we go to bed, on the train, at work. Hey, Colleen, hey, Millie, do you have any idea about where we can find resources? And I have this question about disability, and on and on and on and on. And Millie and I got together and we're like, wait a minute. Clearly, folks are asking us questions ad nauseum, right? Why can't we get together and start creating a kind of a formal partnership that allows us to share what we've learned along the way from our ancestors and all the folks that have done this amazing work in disability for 100 years? Why not get together and try, make something a little bit more formalized while still being our informal kind of selves, I think.
Yeah, this is Millie. I think, yeah, Colleen's right. I mean, to me, why did we start it? Because there was a need for it. I think that's what we see. We really recognize the fact that there are many businesses, organizations, nonprofits, individuals, etc., who really needed some, in some sense, some hand-holding. And I don't say that in any negative way, but hand-holding in the sense that, this is all very new. The language is very new. The concepts are very new. In inclusivity and the conversation about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, very often in the world does not include people with disabilities. So we saw the need, both from exactly what Colleen was saying, people asking us, literally coming to us as sources of information, as resources for them, as people who could connect them to information or provide the information ourselves. And then secondly, recognizing the fact that there was such a gap in disability being part of all of those spaces, and it's okay, why not help fill those gaps? You, as we always say, we can complain about something, but if you're not doing anything about it, then what are you complaining about? So I think that was also one of the reasons, we see this, we want people to know these things. Let's teach them. Let's get them, onto that place. So I think that's part of it.
I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I will say, so working with you, so for our viewers, we have worked with Millie and Colleen on revamping our Disability Ally Initiative, which is a workshop we've talked about on our show before. I really loved, I know, jumping around a little, but when the first time we met, we all were sitting in the Zoom meeting and we kind of I don't know if I'm going to say the right thing. So I don't know if what's coming out of my mouth is right. So it's going to sound ugly. And I loved how welcoming you both were to say, say it ugly, just say it, and we're going to fix it. We're going to make it pretty. And I think that that's just such a big part of even where to start with these conversations, because it's you could talk to anybody at any given point and everyone's going to have an opinion. Everyone's going to have an experience that someone might not feel so comfortable in even having that conversation. I know I'm one person that I still feel like I'm saying something and then in my head I'm like, I don't know, am I saying the right thing? I don't know, should I not have said it that way? Did I make myself sound ignorant? So I really think that you guys have made it very easy and putting me at ease and saying it's okay, you could say it ugly and we're gonna fix it. Have you had other clients and other people that you've worked with where you've had those real raw conversations?
This is Millie, absolutely. And I think, again, there's kind of that phrase of like, meet people where they are. You need to meet people where they are. And the truth is, if things were perfect, Alyssa, I'm going to use you for an example because you made yourself, available to that. You kind of outed yourself in terms of like ugly language, right? But if we don't know that's where people are starting from, how do we make it better? Do you know what I'm saying? Like if you went and you researched like what do we call disabled people? Like if you went and researched that and you started like using weird lingo, we'd be like, why are you talking so weird?
Mhm.
Because we wouldn't
Mhm.
understand why you were doing that either. So we need to, it doesn't make any sense for us not to start from where our clients are at. Like, tell us what you know, tell us how you feel. Like, what are your, even, how do you define disability? Like, start with the basics. And I think that's the other thing that we've noticed is like, when you ask us like why we even started, like when we are talking to people and they have big dreams for programming or inclusivity or accessibility or whatever, and then we realize like they don't often even know who they're talking about, you know and like
Mhm.
we've got to really start from the basics in some ways. And I think it's like we don't know that unless we're being honest with one another. So
No, I definitely agree with that, and I loved working with you guys in the sense of it felt very collaborative. You know, it didn't feel like we had someone that's the be all end all, like you had said, came in and said, hey, you guys are doing this completely wrong. Do this the right way, and then that's it. You guys are good. And we're like, oh, okay, great. As much as we as an agency have tried to be as inclusive and as equitable as possible, it is from there that we realized that even us, we had like so much to learn, and that we all just sat around and said, all right, what do we like, what do we don't like, what are we working on, what can we be doing better. And I think that's where a lot of people, even as an agency, we didn't want to be like the authority on anything. We kind of defer to you guys, and it felt very collaborative, which was very cool. um we did a lot of that virtually, obviously because of the pandemic. How do you guys have how's it been? First of all, let me ask a question because I am so silly. How long have you guys been in business? Ish.
that's what I was going to say. I said it's such a weird timeline because we've been doing collaborative work for almost 10 years. So,
Okay.
so technically we've been doing collaborative work for 10 years, sort of more officially, probably maybe 3 or 4 years. So more, again, disabled consultants, kind of formalizing all those things,
Right.
giving ourselves the name, right, and also like giving ourselves, if we're honest, like permission to take what we've been doing anyway and really making it into something more solid.
Love
So
that. Love that.
and like Colleen said, because we've been working together for nearly 10 years on doing this kind of work, independently, and then kind of connecting and doing that work together, and blending our strengths and our knowledge and all that other stuff, like it sort of began to evolve. And I actually think that's what's helping to make it work, is the fact that we didn't just jump in. We're like, hey, we both know something, let's get together. Like, 10 years ago that wouldn't have made any sense, it would have gone nowhere, and we would have been gone by now. So I think kind of working our way up into this space has been, you know, pretty
Cool.
awesome.
Yeah, I feel like also you guys, we were talking a little bit before the show started with Alyssa. I think you guys were our first fully virtual, 100% virtual clients. So, to the viewers out there, we have never met Alyssa or Kevin in person at all. They've only seen us in our little squares. We've only seen them in their little squares. And I say that just to kind of remind folks about how difficult it is, but also how rewarding it can be. Because even though we physically haven't never been in the same space with you guys, we were able to collaboratively work to update one of your cornerstone programs. And I mean, I think that adaptability of all of us during the pandemic has been something that's been really interesting to watch and work through, with its ups and downs and its not so great points and its fabulous points. But I think having a completely virtual client from almost maybe the second or third week of the pandemic, even we almost began working at the moment the pandemic started. So and it was just great. I mean, even just the different personalities at PCCS, I think you guys also have a similar philosophy to doing work, that you guys collaborate as a team, and you believe in like finding resources and support and various things through collaborative effort, rather than this binary, here's problem A, here's solution B, here's number one problem, here's solution two. And I think that's one of the reasons why we work together so well, because you also shared the philosophies that we have. Whether or not we knew it in the very beginning, by the end it was definitely clear.
Definitely. Speaking on the pandemic, coming more so from the perspective as a disabled person, how do you feel the pandemic has, do you feel like it's been either beneficial or has hindered people with disabilities in their everyday lives? How this remote world feels for you guys? Has it been like in a better transition? Do you feel like it's kind of different but the same? How do you guys feel about all that?
So this is Millie. I think that again, I could probably only speak from my own experience in terms of a person with a disability, but in terms of the business, in terms of what Colleen was just saying, our ability to work with PCCS, person-centered care services, and be able to do that online, really, I think, allowed us to be able to meet a little bit more often than maybe we would have in person. For me and for Colleen, that's like there's no travel involved, right? So it's like I got off of a meeting one today, and I'm out meeting two, and it's just you kind of keep rolling. So I think that alone was a huge advantage, I think also, although I mean, I love seeing people in person, like having that interaction, but I agree with Colleen. Like, I think we were also able to see and meet many of you through Zoom. Then again, I'm not sure we would have seen all of you in person, or at all the meetings that we did have, would we have always seen all of you, things like that. So, and that's happened, with others as well, with other clients as well, like our ability to just connect kind of like, hey, are you free at 5 versus like, yeah, well, yes, but it's going to, I'm free at 5, but it'll take me an hour and a half to get to you. There is none of that. So that alone, I think, helped just the flow of information, the flow of communication. So to me, I think it was a big benefit to be able to do things virtually. And I think going forward, I think Colleen and I are really thinking about remaining, at the very least, remaining hybrid, knowing that we have this opportunity to do both in-person things and virtual events, because I just think it works for a lot of people. I think it works. And Colleen, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about how being virtual also changes what accessibility looks like, just in terms of, access to all of this, to the meetings, to everything else.
Yeah, definitely. Kevin, thanks for your question. And I think, Millie, I'll do a yes and. I agree with almost everything that you mentioned. This virtual environment has allowed us to expand who we're able to meet with and how often we're able to meet. And it, just as a disabled person going beyond the consultancy, those issues of transportation, those issues of having to physically be moving in space and time are much reduced during the pandemic. So that's great. I also think it's been my experience that being isolated in our little boxes, wherever we are living, that's been a challenge. And I'm not going to lie about that. I think it's a both and. I've seen so much of the benefit, but also the fact that I haven't seen a lot of people in almost 2 years. That has it has a huge impact. But also touching on a little bit what Millie had mentioned with regard to accessibility. The virtual environment also allows us to create more access than we typically would in person. So, for example, on Zoom, activating captions is something that we can do with a click of a button. Um, Getting, real-time translation through cart is something that we can do in a link. And, making sure that everybody has what they need, making sure that when you are presenting that you're saying your name, that you're giving an image description, that again, that you're using plain language when you're speaking. All those things that we would typically do in person, we can do a lot more efficiently and cost effectively on Zoom in some ways. But I also have to acknowledge that a lot of folks with disabilities in our communities don't have access to reliable internet service, and that's something that we recognize. So I am sitting in an immense position of privilege saying, yeah, it's been great because I have access to this wonderful computer and, the camera that's attached, and, I have ability to hear and see pretty, what we considered normal. So I definitely recognize and want to, remind folks that I'm sitting in a place of immense privilege even as a disabled person. But yeah, I think, I don't know if I missed anything, Millie. Sorry.
No, I don't think so. Thanks, Colleen. I think this is Millie, and I think that the only thing that I would add, and I agree, it sort of changes the scope of what access looks like, right? So I think that's one thing. But I think also from the consultancy perspective, it also changes what people's needs are, right? Because now the needs are both like we need material that's going to work on Zoom and that's going to work electronically, but we're also going to need content materials that work in real life, in person, because everybody has that hope and of the future that we're going to go back to being able to do these things live. So I think it's also shifted the needs from the clients, in terms of oh wait, now we need to do that, plus and shifts the content, right? Because before there were very few people who were asking how do we make our Zooms accessible or our virtual meetings accessible, whatever they are, right? So I think that's just added a level, right? And added a level of things that people weren't thinking about before and they are now. But I actually think that's a really positive thing, that it breaks people out of or breaks people into thinking about access in a different way, which I think is always a good thing.
I love that. I learned from you guys. I think it was from you guys that the first thing was the image description when you're on Zoom, and I had overheard another meeting that somebody had was participating in, and they did an image description, and it was kind of like a chicken and an egg thing. I was like, did we influence them, or did they know this already? Like, was this like common knowledge I didn't know? But like just something like that, which I thought that was very cool. And it kind of was one of those things I hadn't seen prior to Zoom really. And I guess it's one of those things maybe I wasn't either aware of, or maybe with Zoom now it's becoming more commonplace to do so, to describe yourself for a visually impaired person. I just found that really interesting. Even after so many years of being in the field, you still learn different things, and in the context of different parts of life, you learn different things like that.
Yeah, this is Millie. I want to make a comment about that. It's really important for Colleen and I think for other organizations that serve people with disabilities to um, how we phrase it is model access, right? Model what accessibility looks like. And so that's, when you begin to do that in rooms, other people are probably like, why is he describing himself? Like I can see him, but they, at some point, that light bulb clicks, you know? And you can do that live. Why not? Because people who are who are blind or low vision can't see you in person either. So
Right.
you should be doing that in person. We're
Right.
hoping that trickles into in-person reality
Yes,
as well.
exactly.
So
I want to talk briefly about our process working with you on the Disability Ally Initiative. I was about to say DAI. I'm trying to get out of the habit of using the acronyms. So when we had first reached out to you saying we have this workshop, we really need your expertise, we need your help. What part of that made you guys interested in working with us, because it was a two-way street. We knew we needed you, but what was that moment for you?
I think, Millie, you had first contact with PCCS, I think.
Correct. This is Millie. So actually, your executive director reached out to us because we were connected on Facebook of all things, and so certainly seeing my posts and things like that, and how involved I am in disability community. Chris reached out to me and said, like, this is something that we're looking into. We'd like to revamp this program, and I checked it out. After I checked it out, I was like, this is definitely, a couple things. This is definitely something that is needed, again, to this whole thing of like, wow, what a great program. Like, conceptually, what a great training for an organization to be providing to such a wide range of people. That was like the first thing that stuck out at me. And then I of course I passed it on to Colleen. I was like, Colleen, like, I'm being, asked to help with this project. I think this is something that's completely up our alley. I think that we can make this work. And I threw out a couple ideas, and she ended up being on board, of course, because we did it. But I think one of the things for us is, like, once we finally did meet with all of you, I think that we heard you, I guess is what I would say. We listened to what you had to say, and like almost immediately, I think, like, when Colleen and I get off of our meetings, Zoom, or get out of meetings if they're in person, we connect, like we debrief ourselves. And like when we came out of those meetings, we both were hearing the same things. We knew where you guys were at. We knew that it needed to be simplified to get your messages across. We knew what messages you wanted to get across. And so I think it almost, I don't know. It was exciting. It was exciting because, wow, like, DAI is an exciting, Disability Ally Initiative is an exciting program to be part of. And so to be able to kind of reimagine what that looks like, to I don't know. It was like, it just seemed like a perfect fit. Like, we, and our, Colleen mentioned before, like, our connection to you guys, and Alyssa, what you were saying before, that, it was that we made it comfortable for you, you guys made it comfortable for us. Like, it's not always like that. It doesn't always just gel that way. And honestly, right there were bumps in the road. There was like communication, miscommunications, or misunderstandings. Maybe they're going to happen, right? But it's like, what happened at those points? We came back to one another and we're like, wait a minute, like, let's just clarify something. What are you thinking? Here's what we're thinking. And we're going from there. That's it. And that process for us, I think, was like, it's just so positive to be able to go through a process like that, and really be partners in recreating that program.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Millie. I will say, being involved from the beginning with you guys, and really seeing, it was really great working with you guys. Even more so from where I saw the benefit, was that it really made me look inward and make me realize, like, wow, we were ready to like bite off more than we can chew. Like, let's pump the brakes for a second, and like, let's reel it in. And especially being, I've been with the organization for 3.5 years, and in my 3.5 years, I've been working on the Disability Ally Initiative with Alexa, with Chris, in my time there. And we've worked so many times trying to revamp it on our own, trying to make adjustments on our own, never claiming that we were experts. We are all learning, and we were all trying to grow with the initiative. However, we needed that redirection. It was very clear, even in that initial conversation with you guys. So it made me really realize, like, wow, we have a lot of work to do. And then to go moving on even further, and even gauging the message to other employees, other people who have taken our initiative, who are familiar with the workshop, getting their feedback as well, really made it very eye-opening. For us. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I know that was a huge thing. My biggest question, I think, because this is something, again, that for the last 3.5 years, we were trying really hard to figure out where do we go from here? How do you redevelop an already existing workshop? Like we had the PowerPoint, we had the resources, we had a training that was only supposed to be an hour, which probably could have lasted about 7 or 8. What do you do?
We really said, hey, we have this training that could be for anybody, and it could be any length.
At any
Can you
time,
help us?
for any level, at anything.
And you're like, sure. Yeah, how did that come about? How did you?
That sounds about right.
So I'm reeling it back in right now. I'm reeling it back in. I think though, also I think going back to like what we were just discussing was that when we looked at the Disability Ally Initiative and we looked at PCCS, we saw reimagining humankind and we're like, okay, well that's ambitious, but then we saw communities of belonging, right? And there was immediately a sense, regardless of the curriculum, right, that you guys felt that disability had a larger position in the community, and the disability experience and advocacy and activism doesn't always only need to happen in disabled communities. There's a need for allyship. There's a need for communities to grow around each other, however they look, and that's going to always include folks with disabilities. And I think from my perspective, that was a pretty unique position for a service provision agency to take. I've worked with a lot of service agencies that have a very different idea around what disability is and how supports are provided. So here was this PCCS that I had very little knowledge of before we started working with you. And then, oh my goodness, there are agencies out there that put their money where their mouth is. You know, they're doing the work of understanding disability as like a beautiful part of human diversity. But Alyssa, to answer your question, the Disability Ally Initiative training, when we got it, we looked at it. It was, I don't know, it was like what, 30 slides altogether? But
sure was.
They were jam-packed with font this big, and they had, you know, topics on each slide that literally we could have done a training on each slide for a day. And so I think as consultants, and I think it goes back to what Millie was saying earlier, the first thing we had to ask you is, what is your priority? Who is your audience? Who would you like to reach? And what is the message that you would like to tell them and share with them? And what even more importantly, what is the message that the disabled folks that you work with want to get out into the community of Staten Island, right? Because Staten Island, we're from Jersey, you guys are from Staten Island, it's its own amazing place, right? And that was before we even did anything with the slides. We listened to you guys and we said, what do you want? Tell us what you want. If you really only want this training to be an hour, here's a little tough love. We love you. You're wonderful. But you got to let us know what you want to include and what you want to take out. And those conversations were a little painful. You know, you guys have been working on DAI for years. You developed it as a really unique training that's positioned in your community in a way that many others aren't. And I think the advantage that we were able to provide is an outside, like, objective, disconnected. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but if you created something and it's your baby and you look at it week after week, month after month, year after year, you're not necessarily seeing it as your audience would. And you generously gave us the permission to look at this critically, to figure out how we could make the whole presentation more accessible to everybody, B, convey the messages that you are wanting to convey, and C, make sure that the members of PCCS had a voice in the presentation as well. But it was not here's 5 steps, here's what you need to do, and we're done. It was a lot of conversations and a lot of back and forth, and we like this, but I'm not sure about this, and how do we integrate those image descriptions in the back end of the PowerPoint, and figuring out that technology piece, because PCCS is committed to being accessible on many levels. And that has to include the educational materials that you're creating as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is Millie. I think the only thing that I would add to that is so for us, kind of on the back end, after hearing what your vision was for Disability Ally Initiative, being able to sort of back into that, like Colleen said, as an outsider trying to back into that was very different. And I think also one of the things that helped us in our process is to hear what you, as kind of the leadership at PCCS, at Person Centered Care Services, listen to the leadership, but then again also listen to some of those other folks, both in the organization and who have done Disability Ally Initiative training, talk to them as well, and hear what it is they wanted, what was valuable to them, what they wanted to hear, what they learned the most, what they've taken with them. And that even if we didn't have a slide that specifically answered that particular piece of the original X number of slides, we were able to then incorporate that information, that concept, that lesson into something else. Do you know what I'm saying? So that was something that for us, it's like, okay, I understand they want this piece, but let's fit this piece in somewhere else so that lesson is still learned. It's just learned in the kind of in the context of this 1 hour training, which is very different and looks very different. So I think for us, that was kind of the kind of a cyclical process that Colleen and I had to go through to really get to a point where we were providing what it is that folks were saying they wanted, but then also acknowledging the fact that some of these audience members that you're giving the training to, this may be the only training they ever get. And if it is the only training they ever get, what are we saying? What do we want them to know? So also taking our perspective from that disability perspective, and then taking on, kind of that collective voice, if you will, that collective message, trying to put that together into that hour presentation. So
Listen, I know that Alyssa and I have been obviously involved with this previously, the Disability Ally Initiative, and I know you guys came to us and said, "Listen, is there any part that you guys really like, that you guys are just dead set on?" We were all like, "Listen, there's a video." A couple was like, "There's a video in there that we really love. It's a very funny video." And then when we got the revamp, we're like, "Oh, the video's not there."
The video was
But
gone.
it was gone. But in reality, so we've done the training as it's been revamped, and it's very obvious that the video in question, for all our viewers, and we'll throw it in the chat at some point, it is a delightful YouTube video explaining how not to be awkward with people with disabilities. It's very fun. It's very hilarious. It's humorously satire of how we treat people with disabilities. It was great, but in reality, that's kind of the training, right? Like, that's the whole point of the training. We could just show that video for 3 minutes and then just left, you know? So then as we had done the training, I said, "Oh, this is literally all the information. It's still there, you know? It's all like accessible as ever, you know?" And it almost hones in on what our words are, you know? It's like you had said, Colleen, you came and gave us a more objective kind of experience for it. You don't know what you don't know, right? We figured we were doing our best. We're like, this is what we got, right? You know? And your ability to kind of craft from that a revamp was really great, and still keeping the message like kind of on track. When you kind of talk a lot and you're kind of like just going on and on and on about, but this, you're really like passionate about it. You kept our voice very on track and very accessible for people to kind of like reflect on, like, oh yeah, equity, huh? Which was great.
I think it's also important to include, like when you're doing curriculum development, to include different learning styles and different ways to get that same point across. So in DAI, you'll see images that describe equity and inclusion, and you'll see videos, and you'll see able-bodied checklist, which I have to say did stay in from beginning to end. It stayed in. And the reason why it stayed in, because we had listening sessions with folks from PCCS, with folks who had received the training, as Millie had said, and everyone in between. And that particular piece of DAI, all audiences, from those that created the program from day one to those who just received training, new employee training a couple weeks ago, that resonated with everybody. So I think the role of a consultant is really not only to say, oh, how can we reimagine, how can we improve, but also to make sure that clients know that all the spaces where they are doing great things and how that should be amplified. And I think that's important. Having the balance between, okay, here are the things that you need to work on, but also remembering to amplify, here are the things that you're doing really well. I think that's also part of our consultancy too, because we recognize that accessibility doesn't happen overnight. It's a stepwise process. You create access little bit by little bit. Same with allyship. You're not going to become a disability ally if you don't even know what the words mean. But if you wherever you're starting, as Millie said earlier, meeting people where they're at and moving step by step and not judging people because they're not moving fast enough. It's really important.
I want to shift gears quickly. I know we are running a little bit shorter on time, but I did have a few questions that I really would love to get your insight on. So being that we've worked together and it's been so wonderful, and we have had nothing but such a positive experience, and we really turn to you in our most vulnerable state, to be honest.
For anybody watching, we're being legitimately genuine. We loved working with them. Go
It
on.
was exactly like I said. I have to say, this was the first time that I felt comfortable just speaking and knowing that whatever I'm saying, whether it's right or wrong, not going to be judged and not going to be looked at in a different way. But I would love to know, has there ever been a situation where you have been in contact with someone, maybe they wanted to work with you, or they were interested in your services, but they kind of questioned or were a little skeptical that you guys wouldn't be able to fulfill your services due to your disabilities?
If you do.
I hope not.
That's a good question. This is Millie. I think that I guess I'm just trying to think, and Colleen chime in. I'm just not. I'm sure the answer to that is yes, but I can't think of a clear moment. But I think kind of to circle us back to the beginning where I started, the fact that we put ourselves out there as disabled consultants. If folks are not going to contact us, they probably are not going to contact us because of our name.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say the same thing, and I think that's one of the reasons why we have the name.
Right.
It kind of filters out folks that might not choose to work with a disabled professional,
Mm-hmm.
and it gives us a lot less heartburn, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But I think to your question, though, I haven't experienced it with Millie working as a consultancy team per se. But as somebody who's been delivering and developing trainings for eons, I've definitely walked into spaces where predominantly people that don't identify as disabled are. And just to make it really quick, people would say, hey, when's the trainer arriving? And when they figure out that I'm the trainer, the face goes white, and I had a couple people leave back in the day. It hasn't happened so much recently, but when I was a lot younger, age and disability and my gender expression altogether, that was a little too much for some folks to handle. So yeah, I've experienced that. And I think, you know, part of it is resilience, and regardless of what you're walking into, you know, owning that you are there to provide a training, and you, for whatever the day is, Alyssa, Kevin, PCCS, you guys are the experts on that day providing that training, because you know what it DAI backwards, forward, sideways. Not only do you know the presentation, but you guys live this as part of PCCS. It's not just, oh, the PowerPoint, and then I go and behave differently outside, you know.
And Mrs. Millie, I think the other thing, I agree with Colleen, definitely. I think, and I've had similar experiences like trainings and whatnot, and people literally looking for who's going to teach or train, and that would be me, which is always a little surprising. And then, sorry, I was going to say something else, and I've kind of lost my train of thought. But I think just to add on one thought, and that is, like, if people are looking at us and know that we're disabled, or looking at our name or our business name, and also, you know, thinking like, I don't want that, then the chances are they're really not that serious about wanting to make their spaces, whatever space that is, more accessible, more inclusive.
True.
So it's like, if you're not even willing to start there, I'm not really sure.
That's the first hurdle.
Yeah,
You know, you can't jump that. Forget
you
it.
probably need somebody before us
Yeah.
to get you to us, you know. So I mean, that's yeah. But those are exactly the people we'd love to be working with, because they need us.
I was gonna say that you just brought to mind, like, whenever I'm giving a training, I always think in the back of my head, I'm glad for the audience, but this training is for the people that didn't make it to this room, or didn't think it was important enough to get here. Those are the people that we really want to be having the interaction and the dialogue with. And little by little, I think it occurs, you know. And DAI has been around for a long time, so I think the various environments that you guys are presenting this initiative in, I hope has expanded, you know, who's actually in the room. Maybe that CEO 2 years ago would have never come, because that's beneath them. But after hearing 4, 5, 6 of their employees say, "Oh my goodness, there was a lot of value in DAI," they may end up showing up, you know. So it's patience.
Absolutely. So now we are closing out on time, but I do want to make sure that people know where they can find you. Again, I cannot stress it enough that you guys have been nothing but helpful and inspiring and educational on so many levels.
And funny. We had a good
Exactly.
time.
Exactly. I mean, I'm surprised you're not sick of us yet in the amount of conversations that we've had so far. So we really, really love talking with you. So where can other organizations, even people that just want to know more, come find you, and get to speaking with you?
Absolutely. This is Millie. I think I dropped in the chat our email address, disabledconsultants@gmail.com. So that's the easiest way to reach out to Colleen and I. And we're actually kind of developing materials and doing some other things. So we'll have some more stuff to share. But again, we're in interesting times at the moment. So once things settle down, we will be visible in other ways. But the best way to reach us right now is through our email address. So disabledconsultants@gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, we're hoping that you guys come back when you have more exciting business news to share with us. We would love to have you come again. And we really want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy days to chat with us and chat with our viewers, and really get to know more about you and your journeys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting us and letting us tell you a little bit about us.
We
Good
love
to
it.
be
Well,
around you guys again.
yes, absolutely. It's
Yes.
been a little too long. So you guys
Exactly.
got a little break. Now it's time. We're coming back for you.
Exactly.
So for our viewers, please go ahead and reach out to Millie and Colleen. They are wonderful, wonderful ladies, and they're just so great to talk to and put you completely at ease. Contact info is in the chat, so please take a look. And we want to thank you for tuning in today, and we will see you next week. Have a great day, everyone.